Hello gorgeous peeps, I'm Chris from TechSpert and today we're going to be unboxing the mighty Huawei Nova 10 Pro. A 6.78 inch behemoth boasting a dual lens selfie camera, 100 watt battery charging, the best mother flipping mobile game about twerking that's ever been made, and lots more great things like that tells you. Well, I don't know about you, but now I'm absolutely busting to get the Nova 10 Pro on out of its box and take you on a full-on tour. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So question one, what do you actually get inside that big old box besides the Huawei Nova 10 Pro? Well, the good news is you do still get a power adapter bundled in there, and it's a mighty 100 watt Huawei supercharge effort. And it's basically just as big and hefty as the actual phone. You've also got yourself a Type-C USB cable, and huzzah, yes, you get a bundled condom case as well to slap around the Nova 10 Pro, keep it nice and safe. And that right there is everything you'll find bunged in this lovely box. So here we have it folks, the Huawei Nova 10 Pro, a 6.78 inch slab, but despite the fact that it's absolutely gargantuan, it doesn't actually weigh that much, 191 grams, not too bad. As you can see, very little wasted space because that screen pretty much fills the entire front end of the phone. Very skinny bezels above and below, and as you can see there, the display actually curves off around the edges. So you've definitely got a premium look and feel here. Unfortunately, the Nova 10 Pro is cursed with a floating turd notch similar to the iPhones. It's not quite as big on Huawei's blower, but it will intrude on the action when you go full screen when you're watching a video, playing games, whatever. But the good news is that even though that screen curves off around the edges, you can grip the Nova 10 Pro quite tightly and it doesn't f up the responsiveness of the screen. Everything still acts the way that it should do, no worries when you're swiping, poking, etc. Now flip the Nova 10 Pro over and you've got a placky back available in two different colours, either Starry Silver or Starry Black. That's some really imaginative naming there, guys. It's a matte finish, seems quite resistant to grime and scuffs and fingerprints and everything, which is always great. You won't have to be constantly buffing it up, although it might get scratched up rather easily, so definitely slap on the old prophylactic case. And as you can see there, the camera is looking particularly bling on the Nova 10 Pro. They've really gone all out on the gold trim there, which I believe you get on both the silver and the black model. I'd imagine that's going to be pretty divisive, and otherwise it's just a plastic frame. Nothing else really to know, but it's a nicely put together phone. I like some of the little detailing, like the bit of red trim here on the power button. No water resistance sadly, but hopefully should be fine if you get caught in a brief downpour. As for the software, well, no Android sadly. Huawei is still kind of banned from doing all of that shenanigans, but it's got its own thing going on in the form of Harmony OS. This enjoys a similar sort of layout to Android, so swipe this way and you'll get what amounts to a Discover feed with all of your latest headlines. We've also got a few little widgets chucked in there. All completely customizable, of course, so if you don't like your sports, you can tell that to bugger right off. From your main desktop, you can tidy away all of your apps in a nice handy little drawer. You can pull down your notifications like so, and over on the right side, you've got a control center similar to the likes of MIUI. And of course, good old iOS, which MIUI blatantly ripped off. And this just gives you fast access to a whole bunch of different toggles. You've also got some media controls on there. Oh, and Huawei's own super device feature as well, which allows you to quickly and easily pair up with other Huawei devices and share all your files and apps and other stuff. Now, because there's bugger all Android on here, that also means bugger all Google services. So there's no Google Play Store, for instance, for downloading apps. What you get instead is the Huawei App Gallery. And no, of course, it's not as well stocked as the Google Play Store, but it is improving over time. And if there's anything you can't find on here, what you can do instead is use good old Petal Search. And what this does is it searches the internet for APK files for any apps you might need. You just got to remember to be very, very careful when you are downloading APKs because they could have some nasty shit hidden inside. But your Nova 10 Pro will scan any APK files before installation just to check to see if there's anything dodgy to be found lurking within. And you do have quite a lot of pre-installed apps on here as well, most of them Huawei's very own efforts. The likes of Game Center, Health, good old Petal Maps and Petal Clip. And phew, yes, you do also get Bing! Don't forget Bing! And for your security shenanigans, you've got an in-display fingerprint sensor here on the Nova 10 Pro. It is a basic optical effort. These scanners have progressed to the point now where they are very, very good indeed. Highly dependable, rarely bulk up unless of course your fingers are like super grubby or wet. So no worries here, and you've also got face recognition as well using that enormous front camera setup. So yeah, the screen is barely turned on and already it scans your mug, good to go. And for your storage requirements, you've got either 128 or 256 gigs of space here on the Nova 10 Pro. Sadly not expandable via one of Huawei's proprietary nano memory cards, but you do have space for 2 SIM cards here on the double-sided tray. Now, one of the undoubted highlights of the Huawei Nova 10 Pro is that enormous 6.78-inch OLED display with full HD plus resolution. That's 2652 by 1080. It is bright, it is punchy, you've got nice wide viewing angles on there as well. Super crisp, super lush, and super smooth as well, courtesy of the 120Hz refresh rate support. I once again highly enjoyed streaming a good bit of completely mental content via the Huawei video app. Absolutely jam-packed with bangers, that is. The only real issue is, as previously mentioned, that enormous floating turd notch that does mask quite a bit of the action when you go full screen. The stereo speaker setup here on the Nova 10 Pro is proper good as well, and if you don't fancy using that, there is no headphone jack, but the Bluetooth 5.2 wireless streaming works an absolute charm. You've got full LDAC support on there as well.
This week we begin with Pixel 7 rumours, as Google's latest flagship smartphones have been leaking like a candy floss nappy, with their launch just a couple of weeks away.
Now, running the show here on the Huawei Nova 10 Pro is Qualcomm's very own Snapdragon 778G chipset, but in a 4G form. There is no 5G connectivity on here, again due to various legal shenanigans. Quite a popular mid-range chipset found on the likes of the Xiaomi 12 Lite, a whole bunch of Oppo and Realme smartphones, and it's backed here by 8 gigs of RAM. You got pleasingly smooth everyday performance on here, and if you are a benchmarking fan, well, some very respectable scores spaffed out, both single core and multi-core. You don't have a fantastic selection of games on the old Huawei app gallery, unfortunately, but the ones that I did manage to download played absolutely perfectly. And yes, that does include the absolute genius that is the legendary Twerk Battle. Highly simple but highly addictive, just dodge left and right to snaffle as many hot dogs while avoiding the nasty, healthy green stuff. And the more processed meat products that you manage to scoff down, the more likely you are to absolutely smash this poor innocent lady at the end for whatever reason. And crammed inside of that starry chassis is a 4,500 mAh capacity battery, and the battery life so far seems to be trickling down quite slowly. Should see you through a full day, even with pretty intensive use. That's certainly helped along by the rather energy efficient Snapdragon platform, that's for sure. And when it is fully drained, as I mentioned before, you got 100 watt wired charging on this thing, so it'll power back up in a jiffy, but sadly no wireless charging. So last up for this Huawei Nova 10 Pro unboxing, let's check out that bling-tastic camera tech. This is a triple lens setup, the primary lens being a 50 megapixel shooter, but sadly without optical image stabilization, so as you can see there, every slight hand tremor is replicated on screen. You've got all the usual tools and features, including a good bit of AI camera shenanigans. And as you can see there, this just automatically changes you to a different camera mode where appropriate, so portrait when it detects there's a gorgeous lovely face in frame, or a beleaguered dead behind the eyes one like good old Veronica here. And certainly that focus is fast to act. Make sure that you get nice crisp clear shots of your subject as long as the lighting isn't too bad. With the portrait mode active, you can turn on good old beauty mode if you want to just get rid of all those lines and creases. I prefer leaving that left off because I like a more natural shot. And you've also got a variety of different bokeh effects and filters you can play around with. And like usual with Huawei smartphones, the portrait mode does a great job of singling out your subject, blurring out the background with pretty accurate edge detection. When things start to get rather dark, you can always swap to the night mode. This shoots lots of different pics at different exposure levels and can really brighten up a snap and help to sharpen it up too. You have a whole bunch of other different features and tools to play around with, including a dedicated pro mode. This gives you the usual total control over the ISO level, etc., and you can shoot in RAW format. You also have a super macro mode, and the 8 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter, which is the secondary lens here on the Nova 10 Pro, does also operate as a macro lens. And the last of those lenses is just your basic bog standard depth sensor. One of the big camera modes that Huawei has been making a fuss about is the vlog mode. This allows you to shoot using both the front and rear camera at the same time. Otherwise you can use both of those front facing cameras. So for instance, you can have the standard view and then also for some reason a really zoomed in view. Oh God, is that what my paws look like? Oh, I'm a monster. And here's an example of a vlog using both the front and the rear camera. Highly exciting stuff. Wake up, you're so lazy. All you do is sleep. Or you can, just shoot your usual bog standard 4K resolution video using just the rear camera if you want to, and the results are pretty good as long as you don't try doing it in particularly ambient light. But anyway, you've got quite a flexible selfie camera setup because of course it is a dual lens arrangement. So the main camera is actually a 60 megapixel shooter, so it should pack in plenty of detail, and I believe uses a bit of pixel binning as well to brighten up a shot in lower light conditions. As you can see there, you can swap between normal and wide angle views. Alternatively, the secondary lens is a 8 megapixel portrait shooter, which as you can see there really crops in. So if you want to say bollocks to the background, this selfie shot is going to be all about me, then job done. And here's a variety of selfies I snapped with the Huawei Nova 10 Pro. As you can tell, I really love taking selfies, it's just my favouriteest thing ever. And there you have it, you gorgeous person you. That in a lovely little nutshell is the fresh new Huawei Nova 10 Pro. But what do you guys reckon? It'd be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. And have yourselves a really wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.